Number 10. We Believe You is a courtroom drama from Belgium, spoken in French. It is just under 80 minutes. It will tide you over for a bit if you crave solid contemporary European dramatic cinematic content. The film is a little drawn out, in my opinion. I wish there were more flashbacks that we could get away from the same setting. Maybe this is a budget constraint and there just wasn't the time or money for this not to be the case. However, there's a certain unreliability of what is being said here. Some things said in court might be lies, and some are, but your mind wanders a bit because it's not spelled out for you with flashbacks. Custody battles are emotionally difficult as well. While it's a quick movie, it's far from breezy. Virtually every scene has ratcheted up emotional intensity due to the nature of the tale. Everything is really from the mother's perspective, and it might have been nice to have a bit more of the point of view of the husband as well as the kids here. We hear about them, but they don't talk enough, in my view. Anyways, it's a good movie, a rough ride, and pretty much sincerely told. The setting is limited, but nice to look at, and it might have enticed me a bit more to think about attending that Rotterdam Film Festival. Number 9. Home Sweet Home is this Danish movie that deals with work in an old folks' home. It reminds me of this Hot Docs documentary on the topic that I believe was also from Denmark or perhaps Belgium. Regardless, the same thoughts for that documentary are largely applicable to this narrative film, interestingly enough. It provides an insightful sociological view of the workplace, but lacks stakes. It is perhaps not the best topic for a film that is either a narrative or a documentary, but it is not without worth either. Maybe you are pushing that age or have a family member in a home. Maybe you need to relate to it, but it just looks like a pretty uncomfortable job of people who are near the end of the line. Maybe I feel like it's hard to invest in their tale with so little time when so little time is left. Maybe I'm just a jerk though, and this is a great subgenre. I just find it too low key to be of profound interest. It is interesting, just not that interesting from the point of view of my nearly middle aged heart. The actress has some good scenes yelling at each other, and some of the old people look generally uncomfortable, which adds to the ambience and stakes of the story, but it's just not a 5 out of 5 experience for me. Number 8. The message to me isn't a Rosemary's Baby ambiguous proposition between a supernatural reality and mental illness. It is a tale of fraud, but perhaps Iron Ron as well, given it its cool black and white look. It seems to be a very lighthearted and cinematic look at a real tale of fooling people that this child is a clairvoyance and can communicate with people's pets for a price, of course. The look of the movie, the Argentine setting, and the Spanish language heighten things, but it's still an earthbound story for me. While it might have mystical energy, I am an earthbound guy. I don't think kids or adults can talk to animals, and this is a wild scam story. Two adults take a kid on the road to fleece people for cash. That is the tale, and it is pretty fun stuff. It's fine to tell a story about people who scam others because those people are pretty wild and uneven sort of people, making them great people to focus a movie on. Their extreme lifestyle is a lovely thing to view from afar. It's nice to see these people without knowing them. It's cool to see a downbeat, sort of pleasant scam affair from the film from Argentina programmed in the Berlinale. Let's hope it hits the cinemas here in Canada. Number 7. With Circus Boy, we have a documentary so surreal that you might even think it was a fictional cinema. We get the story of carnival people, circus people. Call them what you want, but they're rock solid. Our main subject is 11, and the main supporting actor is over 80. A true German carny. They're pals, and they've got things to show us, the outsider world. Hope they need to buy a ticket to keep their thing going. The director has pointed out to me, and while it is so true once you absorb it, the circus has become quite unpopular since the 90s. In the 2000s, the grandmas and grandpas who took their grandkids to the circus seemed to have died off. I remember actually going once with my dad and being kind of horrified by clowns. The vibe was not appreciated by 90s kid me. And never did I ask my dad to take me back in the 2000s. The life is what it is. Interesting living life on the road, seeing the world and doing this thing that is actually performatively a time loop to the 50s or 60s and to a lesser extent up to the 90s. Circus Boys is sort of shot like a narrative film and has animation looping in and out. So I was totally tripped out and talked to the directors about it as if it were a narrative, which is pretty neat and sort of an accomplishment. Number 6, The Good Sister is a tough movie for Germany that looks at what happens to a family unit when someone is accused of something. Even if people stand by you when you've wronged people, there is a cost. We see it all here in strained relations. People say one thing, the tone in which they respond, though, and their body language can indicate something entirely different. This movie shows the disassociation words can have between our sense of self and what one knows is right or wrong in this world. The limitations of practicality are what's happening here. The movie is subtle. We get layered performances with a nuanced script, so the whole experience becomes a realistic sort of head trip, a cerebral affair of an extreme but frequent kind of happening. You may never see The Good Sister, but this movie is indicative of a lot of German movies, or what German movies aspire to be or ought to be like. It's an emotional mind trip. Not bad at all for a directorial debut as well. Hopefully, Sarah Maria Fisher gives us plenty of more films in this decade and the next one, so we can relish in some more complex, subtle, and deep films. Number five, Paku is a mystical experience rooted in a coming of age tale we know, and most of us like young people, but this Peruvian mystical experience gives us something of a blast from the unknown. I was perplexed by this film in a good way. It was hard to pinpoint where exactly everything was going, but the drifting in this roughly 2 hour and 20-minute film is what the experience is. It's when your mind drifts that it counts, because as your mind goes somewhere off screen, is where our director is having his way with you. How you think about what you think about it is what he's controlling. Our director here is directed by the way of a dark shaman, a master of the obscure, through the redirection of our familiarity with the normal. You should try talking to the guy. It will also bend your mind. My interview with him only reinforced my experience, when I perhaps naively was hoping it would help clarify some things. It only amplified the dread experience in shots that were still and not exactly menacing. This review is missed. My viewing of the movie was missed, and my interview with JD Fernandez Molero was missed. So if you're intrigued by a sense of foreboding and want to dive into what might be rocks, go for it. Number four, the film How to Be Normal and Honest in the Other World is both scary and entertaining, and probably heightened in both ways because it is set in Austria. There's a cold menace, but also an interesting cultural translation that we get here. Some scenes are directly reminiscent of films like Joker and The Matrix. To see how an Austrian would present that seems like a less of a ripoff and more of a cultural filter. They are without a doubt riffing on these films and others indirectly, and it has largely to do with the fact that this film deals with modern day psychosis. What's happening here in North America is also happening in Austria. We don't see that angle or think about it much here in North America, but most likely. So to see this sort of film, which I'd probably only see through my relationship with the Berlinale, is very cool. This is a hard hitter. Hopefully, it comes to the Bytown cinema. While it is a hard hitter and the German language sounds extremely cold blooded, it is also an entertaining film in terms of how it deals with disassociation. To take on all of the pain of this lady would be too much for a film, but to show us delusional daydreams with paranoid fantasies makes it more fun and relatable, although in a warped sense. Number three, Hysteria is a fascinating film from Germany, which is the perfect place, most likely, to set this film on rough immigration relations. It is all about a provocative film crew who plan on burning a Quran. Cannibal Holocaust was supposed to be a brutal Mondo Cane type experience that was a takedown critique of racism in the media, while it far surpasses anything the news media had done, making it a difficult text to deal with. Hysteria has a fictional filmmaker look at the hype surrounding the burning of a Quran as a wider metaphor for his vision of a divided Europe who is having a hard time accepting their newcomers. The issue becomes less whether he is allowed to do it, but why should you do it? And is it actually a performative thing to serve his ego rather than a brave artistic statement? Given Germany's criminally racist past, it's the perfect place for this movie to come from. We follow one of the actresses and others of the cast deal with the people in their own lives, having to deal with hearing from this director and then balancing the real life implications of being a part of a racist project. The director, while important to the story, is much more of a side character, and as far as people in rooms talking movies go, that'll make for a great experience for you, most likely, if you're ready for its severity. The last sequence of the film is truly remarkable and very satisfying. It relates to the duality of its message of freedom of speech and the coarse views of Muslims that liberal Europe believes are unacceptable. It all ties beautifully to German history as well. Number two, the film is Leibniz's Chronicle of a Lost Painting. If I were to compare this Leibniz movie to another, I would compare it to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, but I must say it is much more improved in the area that they are compared to. The way they are comparable hurts the Indiana Jones movie, while it feels suitable, perhaps, in this German film. The issue of matter is that the young woman sasses the sacred cow old male figure. And Indiana Jones, it's kind of annoying. It basically derails the film. Indiana Jones apparently can't do anything right and is some dumb old loser who becomes a sideshow in his own franchise, in his franchise. In this movie, a painting for Leibniz is commissioned, but the male painter can't stand the guy's pretenses slash insights on the world, and he quits the job so that a woman painter comes into our story, possibly to finish the job. She gets weird and loopy like a philosopher. Perhaps she is his equal, or at least perhaps she's the right person for this job. I guess you'll just have to watch the movie to find out, my friend. It is historical. It is a historical movie, and there are lots of winks and decadence on display. Welcome to aristocratic Europe. This movie is a lot of fun and it is beautiful to look at and has a contemporary angle that is not insufferable. Number one, the film is Ron Husband. This movie, from someone you can trust, director Zacharias Canuck, has been banging out these mystical Inuit movies for decades, and he delivers a reliable product. He's like the David Cronenberg of our indigenous community here in Canada. He has a goated status. When you see his name on a movie, you can bet money that this is going to be a revelatory experience. The mysticism is the texture between the frames. We get a particular school of magic specific to the community he comes from, but singular also the way in which he delivers. Tiff is a massive thing for my content, and they consider him to be one of our best filmmakers. This one looks at an arranged marriage and the saltiness that follows when someone feels wronged. If you want to experience something real, but strange at the same time, you get it all in this unique package which premiered in this year's edition of the Berlinale. These actors do a great job with the material, and while there is an onslaught of indigenous content coming from Canada these days, this film stands above the rest of the crop 100%.